Mastering for Spotify. I have all the answers here. The following video confirms everything I've been recommending for ages, in various courses, in various YouTube videos and so on, so let's dive straight in. Starting off with the obvious, but something that should be reinforced. So, we work at a 44.1 thousand hertz sample rate. Not 48,000, that's for video, but in the music world we work at 44.1 thousand hertz. So in your preferences, just make sure it's 44.1 thousand. In addition, they calculate loudness very poorly using replay gain. More about that soon. In fact, let me show you more about input. That's really heavy on my arm. Ow, my arm! That's what she said. Now we get into the interesting stuff. Will Spotify play my track at the level it's mastered? Will Spotify play my track at the level it's mastered? Not always. I repeat, not always. This is because Spotify applies loudness normalization. In fact, every major platform does this, apart from SoundCloud. SoundCloud will do soon, but currently every major playback platform does something called loudness normalization, and you can see it here. But what is that on about? Basically, platforms turn loud tracks down and quiet tracks up, so that the listener hears all the tracks at the same level of loudness. Therefore, simplistically, you want to make your track quieter so it gets turned up. DJs do this too, either automatically, using say auto gain in Tractor, as you can see here, or manually using the gain controls on the DJ devices. So loudness normalization, you can't look at mastering without truly understanding loudness normalization, turning loud tracks down and quiet tracks up, so that the listener hears them all at the same loudness, which is, of course, a better user experience. Mastering tips for Spotify. Let's go back up here for fun. This is very important now. Target the loudness level of your master at -14 dB integrated LUFS. We'll start with just that bit by itself. So, generally speaking, Spotify works at -14 integrated LUFS. An explosion of insight. This is important because, well, if you do some research, you'll realize that pretty much everybody knows this, who follows the space, but almost nobody follows it. Now, there's some reasons why you might not necessarily want to be as quiet as -14. I personally recommend -9 or -11, depending on how aggressive your genre is. Again, do see my course on loudness, which I revised recently for Groove 3 for more information and the complete story. But it's important to know that Spotify works at around -14 integrated LUFS. Therefore, if you make your track louder than this, it's just going to get turned down. It's that simple. If you make your track louder than -14 integrated LUFS, which almost every track is, it's just going to get turned down. And so you don't need to make your track louder anymore. Fact, there's some nuance in there but as I said, that requires an hour to explain in a course on Groove 3, loudness. I revised it recently. It's great. Next, important insight, and this is very, very important. Keep it below -1 true peak max. Two things here. True peak. We work in true peak. Again, it's not only just the Spotify that works in true peak and not digital peak. Every major platform does. Are we recording? Every major platform works in true peak or measures true peak, not digital peak. And that's because that's the only one that matters. True peak's the peaks you get at the sound card stage. So a digital file with the dots and everything, and then true peak is the analog peak generated from the digital peak. But because everything gets converted to analog, we don't hear digital files. We hear digital files that are converted to analog, and so true peak. Because we, in the real world, hear true peak, every platform that's sensible and not like 30 years old and nonsensy uses true peak. And so we should be doing true peak limiting. That's my point here. So, I mean, there's the headroom point about leaving -1 dB of headroom, but importantly, it's true peak. And so we want to be doing true peak limiting, such as you see here in the isotope ozone limiter. And there's a true peak button. Wowzers, trousers. Make sure we press that so we do true peak limiting and not just normal limiting. Otherwise, we could be losing up to 3 dB of headroom. Because especially if you slam your track, if you sort of smash it to pieces and you have distorted, crazy snares and kicks and stuff, if you do normal limiting and not true peak, okay, better sentences. If you slam your track, let's say making aggressive drum and bass or dubstep or trap or something, if you slam your snares and kicks, then the true peak might be up to 3.3 or so dB higher than the digital peak. And so if you're not doing true peak limiting, then you're literally just losing out on 3 dB of headroom because the platforms look at true peak and not digital peak. So in other words, the platforms will just keep distorting and or just turning a track down, and that's bad. So importantly, even if none of that makes absolutely any sense at all, make sure you do true peak limiting. And as I say, I like the isotope ozone limiter, but there are other softwares available too. Do see the internet for that. This is best for the lossy formats. We use OGG, Vorbis, and there's another one too. What's it called? Opus, that's the one. So yes, I mean, you've probably heard of MP3 as a compressed file format. You may have also heard of AAC, which is a bit more common. It's similar to MP3, but a bit better. A lot of H.264 videos, and so YouTube and stuff. So AAC is more common than MP3 nowadays, but there's better ones out there, better compression formats, such as this Opus guy. So SoundCloud, for example, uses Opus now, mostly. But there's other ones like Vorbis and OGG and stuff. So and they use AAC. So basically, it's better forms of MP3. If you know conceptually what MP3 is, it's a compressed file format, smaller file sizes and so on, but strictly speaking, lower quality. And these recommendations, such as this -1 dB of headroom, are to make sure the conversion process happens without distortion. And so if you've seen my video, you probably have, it's one of the more popular ones, where I explain why you need to leave at least -1 to -1.5 dB of headroom on your masters when converting to MP3. This is confirming it, basically. I mean, these guys know, these guys have the best scientists for that sort of stuff in the world. It's counterintuitive, but you need to leave that headroom for converting to these lower quality formats. I'm gonna get a drink, I'm really thirsty. Bumped into the laptop. Energy, the healthy version. Get it? Rockstar, because of music. There's a link there. Rockstar, if you want to sponsor the channel, feel free. Your drinks are delicious. Additional insight, this is important. So if your master is louder than -14 integrated LUFS, make sure it stays below -2 dB true peak to avoid extra distortion, because basically if your track's louder than -14 integrated LUFS, chances are it's slammed. And if you're slamming your track, then you need more room to convert to, say, MP3, OGG, Vorbis, or AAC. The more you slam it, so like flattening it out in the limiter, when you then convert it to MP3, for example, or AAC, you need more space to do that. And so that's why, in this case, it says, make sure it stays below -2 dB true peak. And so -1.5 is probably more realistic, but they say -2. So maybe -2. -1.5 is fine. My logic is it's fine for the occasional bit of distortion, but you don't want, say, every kick or every snare distorting. So if it's just like 3 times through the track that you get this small amount of distortion from the conversion process, that's fine. You won't really hear that as bad quality. But if it's distorting on every kick drum and every snare, then it'll sound bad quality, and that's bad. So don't do that. This is because, so let's explain. This is because louder tracks are more susceptible to extra distortion in the transcoding process. Yeah, bingo bango bongo. How does Spotify calculate loudness? Very incorrectly. More about that soon. We currently use replay gain, which was the most recognized standard a while ago. Just bad, it's old, not very good. In the future, we plan to use a new standard called ITU 11, the technical stuff. Not important. That's what everyone looks at as being LUFS. Again, I explain all this in my loudness course on Groove 3, but the main way people measure loudness is using, well, the units is LUs or LUFS, depending on if it's relative or the absolute scale. But basically, it's using an algorithm, which there are different revisions, but it's basically this ITU 1770 thing. It's a BT bunch of stuff. They revise it every year, make minor tweaks, but it's basically just an algorithm to measure loudness. It's based on RMS, and that's one of the reasons why it doesn't work properly. Again, more about that later. But yes, all your normal tools for measuring loudness, basically any meter that measures LUs or LUFS, almost certainly uses, well, in fact, it'll use a version of this ITU 1770 algorithm thing. The differences between, say, revision 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so on are so minor that you can basically ignore it for electronic music. The difference between 1 and 2 is important for TV and film because they introduced a gate for revision 2. That's not important. What is important is if you have a loudness meter that measures LUFS, then essentially that's what Spotify currently uses. Again, more about that later. Also, it's the integrated LUFS, so the averaged loudness over the entire thing. Integrated LUFS just ignore the algorithms because they're all basically the same, and just remember that Spotify uses integrated LUFS. Boing! Oh, the good bit's coming up soon. The good bit's coming up soon. Audio files are Loudness normalization. I think I've explained all this. Which bits here are important? Oh, so the end user can actually adjust this. This is quite interesting, actually. The end user can adjust the loudness normalization to adjust that target level. So if your user wants, say, to is it -11 it goes to? Oh, here you go. So yes, if the listener chooses the loud mode thing, then everything gets brought up to -11 LUFS or -11 integrated LUFS. Therefore, personally, I'd actually aim for -11 for other reasons as well. I'd aim for -11 and not -14 because what can I explain why? Oh yeah, here you go. Positive gain is applied to softer masters so that the loudness level is at around -14 LUFS. Here's the important bit. A limiter is also applied, set to engage at -1 sample values with a 5 millisecond attack and so on. So basically, if your track gets turned up and they can't turn it up anymore because they've run out of space, then it gets limited. And that's bad because the limiter they'll use won't be very good. I'm sure you've seen this if you have DJ software, for example. There's a limiter built in, but it's just not very good. If you're using the limiter built into Tractor, say, or the limiter built into Spotify, it works, but you hear all kinds of distortion and it's not very good. It's not as good as the isotope limiters or some of the other third-party plugin limiters that are very CPU intensive and designed to be amazing. I mean, Isotope as a company are basically there to make good limiting algorithms, whereas Spotify isn't, so they just use an average limiter. Therefore, you don't really want to be bumping into this. That would be bad, but it's important to know that they do in fact use a limiter and not soft clip. So it's not the end of the world, but you don't really want to be slamming up into Spotify's limiter. Dippy-dippy-doo! Saying all that about loud and stuff, I don't know how many people actually change the loudness level of their Spotify. Commuters probably do. If you're on a loud, noisy train or in a car that's loud, like an old car, then you might want to turn up the level maybe, but don't really know how many people do that. But for other reasons that I do explain in my course on loudness that I recently revised on Groove 3, for other reasons, half including this, I do actually recommend aiming for -9 or -11 integrated LUFS, but it's more complicated than that. This is important though, before we get to the most interesting part, maybe. My album is deliberately mastered to have some tracks softer than others. Will this get lost on Spotify? Nope! Exclamation mark bumping into laptop. When a user plays your album, we normalize the loudness level of that album at the same. I'm really bad at reading. Reading's difficult. Basically, if you have a track in an album, Spotify looks at the entire album and then applies the same amount of loudness up or down to all your tracks. So if you have a particularly quiet track in the album, then that track will generally be particularly quiet. And if it's particularly loud, then it will generally be played louder. Two insights here. First of all, that's good for creativity. I mean, the idea is that for creative reasons, some tracks should be quiet and some should be loud. And that's a part of the creative thing, the creative process. And so Spotify want to retain this. Interestingly, this could be a way to increase loudness if you think about it, because if you released a track or if you released an album with lots of quiet tracks, actually think about it. It's probably better for you to piece all this together yourself. I'll say it one more time, and then you should try and figure out the way to sort of take advantage of this. Spotify looks at the loudness of the entire album and so retains any relative loudness. So if you have a quiet track on the album, then Spotify will play it quietly. If you have a loud track on the album, Spotify will play it disproportionately loud. But actually, there's a nuance is again important. However, if the user plays your album in shuffle or a track from it in between tracks from other albums, such as in a playlist, we can't apply album normalization, so the track level adjustments are used instead. So if your track's not played in the album, you don't actually get that sort of album consideration stuff. There'll be a link below, by the way, to this FAQ if you wanted to browse through it in your own time without multiplier jibber-jabbering. That's me. How are we doing on time? We are doing fine. That's what she said. Did she? I don't know. My track. Okay, here's the a while ago. In the past, I did a video saying something along the lines of how to trick Spotify, YouTube, etc., into playing your track louder. It was an idea I developed, and it was interesting and amazing. And it's a whole concept. Takes 5-10 minutes to explain or so. I might do an abridged version in a sec. But basically, I figured out a way to make Spotify or YouTube and so on play your track disproportionately loud, taking advantage of the imperfections of how they measure loudness. It's this bit here. So I'll read it and then I'll give you my better sentence. A track that is very dynamic but mastered to -14 will have its peak levels preserved when played on Spotify. So this is confusing because they're using peak levels, not to do with like the digital peak, like how high the waveform's going, but just the peak part of the track. So we're going to replace the word peak with drop. Drop, the main dancey bit, or whatever word you want to use, the chorus. Okay, a track that is very dynamic but mastered to -14 will have its drop levels preserved when played on Spotify. If you compare that to a loudly mastered track at -6 LUFS, for example, its drop gets lowered to -8 LUFS. I'm going to paraphrase this and give you the abridged version. In the video I did, How to Trick Spotify into Playing Your Music Louder, or whatever the title was, I give you graphs and diagrams to illustrate this because it helps to see it visually. But the idea is, if you have, so basically, first of all, Spotify measures loudness over the entire track. This is called integrated LUFS. And bear in mind that loudness generally over a track goes up and down. So imagine two situations. One track, the loudness is consistent all the way through. And in a second track, the loudness is very, very, very quiet, then super loud, then very, very, very quiet, then super loud, and then very quiet for ages. So in the first example, it's almost like the average loudness is the same as the loudness during the drop sections because the loudness is consistent the whole way through. But in the second track, if you have a big difference in loudness throughout the track, then your average loudness will actually be much lower than the loudness at the drop. And therefore, because Spotify uses the average loudness over the entire track, in the second example, the drop will be louder. It's quite hard to explain without a diagram. Do see that video, or see my course on Groove 3. Do see that video. It's diagrams and stuff. It's all to do with the difference between the drop loudness and the average loudness over the entire thing, and how you can basically exploit that, because Spotify very crudely uses integrated LUFS. And this confirms it. I'm actually quite surprised. It was a bit of a theory of mine. I didn't 100% have proof at the time. It was just a mathematically coherent logical argument as to how you could exploit the imperfections in Spotify. But this is proof. They even acknowledge it, that they don't say directly that multipliers are right, but they're telling the world that the idea I had was correct, that I was telling everyone about, that no one else was talking about. So this is proof. Proof right here that multipliers are genius, and you should believe everything I say because it's written down here. Lol, actually what you should do is embrace all my knowledge, and then if in doubt, test it and use your own critical thinking. Because people can just say things on the internet. In this case, what I was saying was true. You have inaudible high frequency, okay, it says, here are a few reasons why music may sound different than others. You have inaudible high frequency content in your mix. Interesting, that's something to explore. I don't actually know what that's all about. But that's interesting. That's something to explore for those mastering technical nerds like me. I'll explore that later. That's interesting. Really interesting stuff. You have a really loud master, true peaks well above -2 dB, which makes the encoding add some distortion, adding to the overall energy of the track. That's the energy as perceived by the algorithm, which might not be audible to you, but adds to the loudness from the rhythm's perspective. Have your thing distort like mad. So don't slam your track. There's no point in slamming your track anymore. Even if you want a flattened out, compressed or heavily limited sound, do it without distortion, or add distortion in nicely yourself. Oh, and then true peak limit, of course. You don't need to. Loudness war is over, people. It's amazing how many of even the best producers in the world still talk about it like it's a thing. It hasn't been for ages. You're not listening on a linear playback system. I don't know what that means. Maybe it's talking about how we hear different frequencies differently, like Fletcher-Munson curves and stuff. Not entirely sure. Maybe it's alluding to how imperfect this loudness algorithm that everybody uses is, the ITU 1770 thing that we measure using LUFS. There's a bit of a story. Again, I don't want to go too down the rabbit hole because I did a course on it, but that algorithm, the ITU thing's not designed for music. It's designed for speech and like for films and stuff. It's not designed for music. So it's just wrong. There are better algorithms out there. Again, something I demonstrate in the course I did. And also, because it's not designed for music, once you know how it's not designed for music, you can further exploit it in other ways, which again, last time I said I did a course on it. The reason why I keep saying I did a course on it is just that, so loudness is one of those concepts that to really tell you the whole story, you need to start from the beginning, explain how it all works, why we all do it, and build in idea after idea. And you have to sort of go through the whole story, which takes an hour and a half or so to truly understand it all. Either that or just remember a few basic principles. Yeah, we're good on time. Just about the principles that I tell you about in these videos. Final bit, as we're still using the replay gain algorithm, meaning with the also this basically just saying that sometimes replay gain isn't perfect. So we'll ignore that. Nothing you can do with that. Just use integrated LUFS. In fact, okay, in addition, there's a website called Loudness Penalty. I did a video on that. Can't remember the title. I think I said like how to tell how loud your track is on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and so on. Can't remember their name. There's a loudness penalty. Loudness penalty. Find out if your music will be turned up or down by YouTube and so on. Just sort of drag it's free. You just drag your track in, press a button, boing, and it tells you how much all the various platforms will turn your track up and down. So you could just use that if you wanted. Another option. Boing, catch you guys on the flippity flip.